We're back at Investor Channel's headquarters in San Diego, California. I'm your host, Daniel Wong. On today's program, we have CEO of CrowdfundX, Darren Marble, on the program with us today. Darren, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks so much for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Hey, well, it's great to have you, and we really appreciate you taking the time. So let's jump right in, though. CrowdfundX has now created a new AI integration into your campaigns. Tell us a little bit about what that means for companies and how that's really helping you be more effective in your campaigns there.
So we've spent the past 2 years pioneering different Reg-A plus IPOs. Elio Motors, first to OTCQX, Myomo, first to NYSE MKT. And what we realized in the last 24 months is that issuers that don't have a built-in audience of paying customers or a natural affinity group of potential investors, those are inherently tough campaigns to market. And so we wanted to solve a real industry-wide problem for those issuers in particular. So I brought on a chief data scientist, Eddie Ibanez, and a team of world-class data scientists under him out on the East Coast. And we developed an artificial intelligence or AI investor marketing engine that we've named DARA, which helps direct earned, owned, and paid marketing activities. And the goal is simple. We want to help issuers streamline the identification and acquisition of retail investors for both Reg-A plus campaigns, as well as to bring on new shareholders if they're an existing company that's already traded on NASDAQ, NYSE, or OTC Markets Group. And this technology was developed during the Myomo IPO, and it's now readily available for select public and private companies.
Well, let's not skip over Myomo or Elio Motors. I mean, these were two things that completely rocked the industry. I think it's fair to say you're definitely leading the pack there. Take us through this. I mean, Myomo was historic. The fact that the first company to go to the New York Stock Exchange via Reg-A Plus, I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And congratulations, too.
Thanks so much. You know, we were really fortunate to work with Paul Gudonis, CEO of Myomo, and their marketing team. You know, we were brought into that deal by Mark Alenowitz, who's the CEO of TriPoint Global Equities and Bank. They're a boutique investment banking firm in New York. And, you know, Mark and I had theorized for a year prior, leading up to that deal, that the companies that would ultimately succeed in raising $50 million and kind of max out in this space would ultimately take a hybrid approach to their marketing. And I believe we spoke about this, over a year ago on the last show, which is that a Reg-A issuer can effectively and should consider an approach where they are raising capital from institutional retail brokers and the crowd all at the same time. And that's the approach that we took for Myomo. TriPoint was the underwriter and lead selling agent. CrowdfundX ran digital marketing, paid media, technology. And that hybrid approach ended up being very effective for Myomo. And there have been a couple of other successful Reg-A IPOs that happened literally days and weeks after Addimani, Shift Pixie. Both of those companies went to NASDAQ. However, what distinguishes Myomo from those two deals is that neither of those IPOs allowed everyday Americans or retail investors to come in on the deal. They were marketed in a more traditional manner through broker-dealers or in one case, existing shareholders helped meet the minimum funding requirement on one of those deals. And so that, we think, makes Myomo very special, and we're very proud to have been a part of that team.
Definitely, and again, it really is an outstanding way that you're able to do that, and the majority of it was, via Reg-A plus. So, I mean, that's definitely going to set the stage for more companies to follow in their path.
Yeah, look, I think Myomo is great, and at the same time, the industry has really been on a great winning streak. In the past few weeks, we have seen more interest in this space, Reg-A plus, than we've ever seen at any time since June 19th, 2015, when it became effective in the United States, when we ran the Elio Motors deal. And that's really exciting, of course, not just for us, but for all the other industry players, and of course the issuers as well. And one of the trends we're seeing is that larger, more established companies are recognizing that they may have certain inherent advantages that they can exploit in a Reg-A plus campaign, whether it's a celebrity-driven deal or a company that's been operating for 20 or 30 years. More and more high-caliber issuers are coming into the fray, and that's precisely what this industry has needed, for the past 2 years. So I think it's a great time to be a service provider or an issuer going down the Reg-A plus path.
Definitely, Darren, and you called that. I mean, it's been we did speak over a year ago, and you've had that on your blog. The first raise would be a hybrid, so things are falling just as you predicted. So, I mean that's amazing. There. Anything else you'd like to share with us about how the landscape of equity crowdfunding has changed over the last year?
I'm hoping that we are ultimately weeding out some of those lower quality companies. By issuers seeing success and setting a bar, because there really hasn't been a bar or a benchmark. I think one of the biggest challenges this industry has seen is that too many pre-product, pre-revenue companies have been attempting to go down this path and have been failing or struggling in bad ways. And, we occasionally do work with those companies because, again, companies like Elio are inherently marketable, and there's an audience for deals like that. But I think the general trend is we're seeing companies that have real operating history, real revenues, have raised millions of dollars in previous rounds. Those are just better fits for Reg-A plus, and that's a hard truth. I think the Jobs Act was designed to allow private companies easier access to capital and also democratize the other side of the fence for everyday investors. But again, the truth is that it's really a great exemption for operating businesses that have a built-in audience of paying customers or affinity groups. And for those that don't, we think we've got a pretty compelling software program to address that challenge.
Great point and great insight. Speaking of that, I mean, obviously storytelling goes hand in hand with that. And you were at a webinar at the New York Stock Exchange here. We'd like to go to a clip to you talking about that here.
Work in successful Reg-A plus offerings.
Sure. So the foundation of any great marketing campaign is an incredible story. And yet the story has been maybe the most overlooked aspect in terms of how these deals have been marketed, especially the ones that haven't worked. This is an opportunity for an issuer to inspire people to invest. And we have a saying with our clients that the story needs to not only emotionally inspire people, but it needs to sell vision, mission, and values. Those are the things that the average unaccredited person actually invests on. So what we've seen in the past 18 months is a lot of what I'll call passion investing, where, believe it or not, the primary motivation for an unaccredited person may not be financial return. And not everybody understands that, but it's actually true. The financial return, making money, is maybe upside. So the opportunities for the issuer to tell a story that emotionally inspires people, connects to their heart and souls, and of course that's easier said than done. Once the story is crafted, it needs to be produced with a high production value, and then the issuer needs to identify the likely investors in the deal. Now, for some issuers, it's going to be more obvious. For a company like Sean, the likely investors are his customers. That's intuitive. For issuers that don't have customers, they really need to think about who the likely investor is in the deal. And I'll talk real quickly about one marketing strategy that we've seen be very effective in this space in the last few months. And we use Facebook. It's the most powerful advertising platform in the universe. And part of the beauty of Facebook is if we have a client that, let's say, has 500 investors in the deal, we take the emails of those investors, we load them into Facebook, and then Facebook creates a lookalike audience. What that means is Facebook is assessing the demographic makeup and taste profiles of that initial base of 500 people, and then identifies another 1 million people that look very similar to those initial 500 investors. And then we run a targeted ad campaign against that lookalike audience. So the key is to get the first 500 or 1,000 investors in, and then from there, the data analytics make it a lot easier to identify, target, and bring in new investors.
Darren, that was a great webinar there at the NYSE, and I think you had a lot of great wisdom there. I'll never forget the first time we actually met you was at San Diego Startup Week, and you said the most important thing is the why, not the what. So, Darren, give us a little bit more about why storytelling is so important.
Yeah, look, I mean, you need a couple things, right? And this is what makes this industry so tricky. Before a great story, you need something even more important, which is a great issuer that has a great product or service. And so if you are trying to run a campaign without that, even the story is irrelevant, right? And so part of the magic is building a pipeline of high caliber, high quality issuers. And again, that's also easier said than done. But once you have that great issuer with strong fundamentals and real, high caliber management, then the trick is to tell a story that does emotionally inspire people. And we've always prided ourselves in storytelling. Before we were a financial marketing firm, we were actually connecting entertainment professionals in the film business. We'd throw big networking parties in Los Angeles, across Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. We always appreciated the importance of effective storytelling. We had been fortunate to network with some really amazing directors, producers, VFX animators, and we've strategically brought in those partners into almost every deal we do, because without a strong story, the marketing campaign will likely fall flat on its face. And yet still we see issuers on different platforms and different industry verticals completely failing to understand how critical the story is to their deal. And you just can't raise money without a strong story. So that's always the starting point in almost every campaign we do.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, Darren, speaking of all the crowdfunding, you have the new Crowdfunding Summit, the second one coming up here on September 6th and the 7th. You're going to have keynote speaker Marcus Lemonis on there. Give us a little bit about what investors can look forward to and companies can look forward to as part of the CrowdInvest Summit coming up.
So we were really proud of the inaugural conference that we ran last December at the Los Angeles Convention Center. We had Shark Tank's Robert Herjavec keynote. James Altucher interviewed him. We're having James back this year, and we're even more excited to announce Marcus as our keynote. And, I think the purpose of CrowdInvest Summit is to draw a crowd. Our criticism of other industry events is that they're generally too insider focused. It's the same attorneys, accountants, and transfer agents who are all my friends and business partners. But, that gets stale really quick, and we wanted to have a conference that was focused on the issuer and their natural investor, retail audience. Last year we had 1,500 people attend, and we've set our sights on a larger number this year. And one of the other strategies that we're employing this year is, in addition to, again, talking about the industry Reg-A Plus, there are other really exciting things happening right now, such as ICOs and blockchain, initial coin offerings. ICOs have raised over $1 billion in the last few months. It's just incredible what's happened. So we've got Brock Pierce, who's going to be giving a keynote on day one, and he's the founder and CEO of Blockchain Capital and one of the foremost blockchain and ICO experts in the world. And that's going to be a really interesting focus for this conference, in addition to the Reg-A equity crowdfunding program.
Definitely. Well, last year's was great, and you mentioned cryptocurrency. I mean, what a hot topic. Definitely pioneering that space, and most people really don't understand it fully. So it'll be very interesting to get to listen to an expert on it.
I'm going to attend, and believe it or not, CrowdfundX is actually engaging in our first ICO. And unbelievably, we've decided to take our entire comp in tokens. And we're not trying to get rich. We're trying to learn about this industry from the inside out. So we've partnered with a group out of Las Vegas. We'll be announcing that relationship very shortly. We think it's a fascinating space, and it's evolving very quickly. It's a volatile but fascinating market again, and we'll be rolling one out very soon. So.
Well, hey, maybe we'll have you on the show next time and we'll be talking about that. But it looks like we're all out of time for today. But I would like to let everyone know, go to crowdinvestsummit.com. There's about 2 weeks left for the early bird special, so get your tickets, get signed up. Also, crowdfundx.io is where you can go to for the companies out there looking to possibly have their story marketed. ShryPointEquities.com as well. Darren, thanks so much for taking the time with us today.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure.
All right, for our viewers and audience out there, tune in next time and catch more videos and interviews here at InvestorTownHall.com. Stay tuned for the next interviews here on InvestorTownHall.com.